Hello and welcome to How I Painted. Today I'm going to be painting the Gloomhaven Tinkerer. I'm going to start off with some Adrian Flesh. I could have primed the mini a brown, but I was using a spray can and the color I had available was white. So this step takes a couple minutes because there's so much surface to cover. An issue that's going to come up with this mini is that the details on the minis are not, on this particular mini, is not well defined. I'm painting lots of anything that's not going to end up very light colored. I'm painting with the Adrian Flesh, just in case I miss a spot with the final color. I use Battledust Green and Menoth White base and about a 1-to-1 mixture for the skin tone. I wanted it to be a light color, but I added a little bit of the green to just make it sit better with the brown. This was a challenge trying to pick out his hand. It's not quite clear where his hand ends, where it begins, or as it's grasping that bottle. Next I use Molten Bronze, again a P3 paint. There's quite a bit of metallic, it would seem, based on the art for this mini. I just used it straight from the bottle. So you gotta be careful with that, you don't want to let it dry on your brush. Got that little gadget on his arm, and then his knees, his shoulder pads. There's also some gadget on his chest that I end up also painting Molten Bronze. I don't end up doing it myself, but there's a tubing that goes from his backpack to his arm. That could have been Molten Bronze as well, I just left it brown. And there he is with his Molten Bronze on. Ah, yes, the Battledust Green and Menoth White base needed another layer, so I'm going back to do that. I use Hammerfall Khaki for his clothes. Well, the clothes aren't brown, so going to be his legs primarily, and his backpack. Next I use a mix of Scorn Red and Bloodstone for the pouches. It took a while staring at the mini and at the art in the game to find that he's actually covered in little pouches, and I wanted those to stand out, but I still wanted them to kind of fit with the brown, so I mixed in some of the Scorn Red, the brown. I used the same color for some of the straps that seem to be holding gear to his arms. Perhaps armor to his arms. This is quite fine little lines here, but if you got a brush with a fine tip, it's not so challenging. Ah yes, I went back with some Hammerfall Khaki to do the rope that's at his side. I used some Quicksilver for the tip of the rope, grappling hook, not entirely sure, and also for the arrow tips. And you gotta be careful not to let any of that dry on your brush if you're taking it right out of the bottle. It's quite thick. Oh yeah, and then lastly there's a tiny little dagger on the top of his thigh. Added some quicksilver there. He's got these little vials around his waist, and I'm going to try to do a little glow effect with Menoth White and ASURMEN Blue, which is an old wash from GW. It's named something else now. I'm not entirely satisfied with how it looked, but I put a little wash on, and then dried the brush, and took a little bit off the edge so that white shines through. It was satisfactory. Then I used some beaten purple on that bottle that's in his left hand. I'm going to go back to this and try to do similar effect that I did on the vials. I'm going to paint it white and then use a purple wash. You can be the judge of it. Oh, Mirror White Battle Dress Green and Menoth White base. Yeah, I mixed those together to do a highlight on his bumpy head. Just pick out each little bump and do a dot on the top. Also use it for his hands, or his fingers I should say. I pick out his little fingers. You're always looking for contrast. I use some arcane blue for I loaded way too much on that brush. I use some arcane blue for the glass on his goggles. Takes me to clean it up a little bit. So way overloaded that brush. Did not have a tip at all. You see now it's got quite a more controllable tip there. Next I use some umbral umber for the goggle ridges. I end up using it for both goggles. I think I waffle on that point a little bit before applying it to the second goggle. Yeah, but I do in fact commit. Something I try to do a couple times on this mini is I'm using Mara White for the chest area as well. I think I'm going to use it on the top goggles, and the idea is, and on the bottles. He's got these little bottles on his backpack. I noticed it first, so I paint them all white, and then what I'm gonna do is put a wash on there. And then try to rub off the wash kind of the center or the brightest point, the point that I want to be brightest, and kind of make it look like it's glowing a little bit. Oh yeah, here I go. Trying to redo the bottle over there. I'm not sure it needed a glow effect, but yes, I use an old Games Workshop wash called Leviathan Purple. It's named something else now. And go over the bottle. Try to keep it mostly just on the bottle part. It ends up being a really rough, there's no good gradient, right? I think it looks okay, but it's just kind of got the really light purple and the really dark purple. Nothing in between. But it was quick to do. I used the THRAKA green, again, old GW paint, named something else now, for the goggles. I try to leave a little bit of the white in the center. Fishing out some of the wash. I use my blue wash again, the chest. I try to make that one glow. The wash is a really dark blue, so if I were going to do it again, I would use a lighter blue and make my own wash, perhaps with a glaze medium, some water. Again, I put on the wash and I take a little bit off what I want to be the brightest point so that that white really shines through. Oh, or do I? Oh, I'm going back to the Scorn Red and Brown mixture to do the kind of outline ridge, that element of the backpack. Back to Arcane Blue. I'm going in on the little bottles there. So I didn't want these bottles to actually glow. I just wanted them to look like bottles. So I go back with a little bit of white. Just kind of put a line of white on top of the Arcane Blue. To make it look like perhaps some light is shining off the bottle. One of the bottles has a X of straps holding it to the pack, and so with a really fine tip I try to just draw that line. The other bottle I think I pin a little bit around the neck of the bottle to make it look like it's being held on there, but who knows. I'm adding a little bit of white to the eye goggles. Again, trying to get a little bit of light reflection. I use Thrall Flesh for the arrow shafts. You see, it wasn't on camera, but I used white Menoth White for the feathers of the arrows. Upon inspecting the model, I noticed that there on the right side of the backpack is the quiver. So I go back in there, put Menoth White where the feathers are, Thrall Flesh for where the shafts are. I use Beast Hide for the wood of the crossbow, as well as just the crossbow, yeah. Use molten to get my molten bronze out again. I decided that perhaps the crossbow has some bronze elements to it. Really, it just wasn't the brown and the kind of light brown or off browns wasn't making it stand out sufficiently. So I'm going in with some molten bronze to make it stand out and would also fit with the rest of the model. There it is. Oh, did I miss a bit? Oh, right. The clasp on the backpack. Did need some metal. I'm using Iron Hole Gray for the base. I'll let that dry for about a full day before moving on to my next step. The next step will be to use Army Painter's Quick Shade Strong Tone. I like how quickly and easily this shades the mini, as well as how it's a powerful protective layer of varnish over the mini. So here I am putting on the Quick Shade. It's very strong stuff, kind of smelly. I wear eye protection just because it seems like I wouldn't want to flick that in my eye by mistake. So I'm applying it liberally. Initially, I will dry off the brush to make sure it doesn't pool too heavily in any of the recesses. And I'll go back, or I dry it off, and then I kind of pick part of it out. You'll see I take some off the gems there, or not gems, but the bottles that look sort of like gems. Afterwards, you let this dry or cure for, on the bottle it says a day to 2 days, so I just wait the full 48 hours to make sure it's completely dry, because it'll dry to a sheen, very glossy sheen. And to take that off, I use Tester's Dull Coat, but if you spray that on before it's completely dry, it's gonna get all foggy and weird and ruin the mini. So this is 2 days later. I've got my Tester's Dull Coat, and I just give it a couple quick puffs, like so. And then after that dries, we've got our finished product. Now this mini, all told, probably took about an hour and 15 minutes to do all the steps. I'm pretty satisfied with it. I hope you enjoyed the video. Tune in next time as we continue to paint Gloomhaven minis. Until then, happy painting.